If you were really great and powerful, you'd keep your promises.
Do you presume to criticize the great Oz? You ungrateful creatures think yourselves lucky that I'm giving you audience tomorrow instead of 20 years from now.
Oh.
The great Oz has spoken.
Oh.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
Remember how Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz discovered that the great and powerful Oz was just a man behind a curtain? Many former MAGA supporters are having their own man-behind-the-curtain moment, peeling back the layers of Trump's carefully crafted image to see the reality underneath. In the political landscape of America, a fascinating phenomenon is unfolding. Former die-hard Trump supporters are abandoning the MAGA movement, experiencing a profound shift in their political allegiances. It's a story of disillusionment, awakening, and the power of changing one's mind. Get ready for a dive into the changing political landscape in America.
We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again.
The Great Awakening. In recent times, as we've touched on, a stunning trend has emerged in American politics. Former die-hard supporters of Donald Trump's Make America Great Again, or MAGA movement, are jumping ship. The phenomenon has caught the attention of political analysts, media pundits, and everyday Americans. It's a shift that few could have predicted during the height of Trump's popularity, when his rallies drew thousands and his supporters seemed unwaveringly loyal. The MAGA movement, which began as a campaign slogan in 2016, quickly evolved into a cultural and political force that reshaped the Republican Party and American politics as a whole. For many, it represented a promise of change, a return to traditional values, and a rebuke to the political establishment. The red Make America Great Again hats became iconic symbols of this new political era. However, as time has passed, cracks have begun to appear in what once seemed like an impenetrable wall of support. From high-ranking officials who once worked closely with Trump to everyday voters who campaigned tirelessly for his election and re-election, a growing number of former MAGA enthusiasts are now distancing themselves from the movement and its figurehead. The shift raises several intriguing questions about the nature of political loyalty, the impact of leadership actions on supporter beliefs, and the potential long-term effects on the American political landscape.
I wasn't just a Trump supporter. I was a true believer. I was one of his closest advisors. The Trump family became my family. I spent Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's all at Mar-a-Lago. I saw him when the cameras were off.
The insiders speak out. One of the most notable figures to break ranks with Trump is Stephanie Grisham, former White House press secretary. At the recent Democratic National Convention, or DNC, Grisham didn't mince words about her former boss. She revealed, quote, "I saw him when the cameras were off. Behind closed doors, Trump mocks his supporters. He calls them basement dwellers. This intimate glimpse into Trump's true character has shocked many who once believed in his public persona." Grisham went on to describe Trump as having, quote, "no empathy, no morals, and no fidelity to the truth." These are damning words from someone who once held a high-ranking position in his administration. Her decision to speak at the DNC and endorse Kamala Harris marks a significant shift in allegiance. The January 6th turning point. The events of January 6, 2021 marked a dark day in American history and served as a turning point for many former MAGA supporters. On that day, as Congress gathered to certify the results of the 2020 presidential election, a mob of Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol building. This violent insurrection shocked the nation and the world. In the midst of the chaos, many looked to the White House for leadership and a call for peace. However, the response from the Trump administration was tepid at best. Stephanie Grisham, who was serving as chief of staff to First Lady Melania Trump at the time, shared a telling anecdote about that day.
On January 6th, I asked Melania if we could at least tweet that while peaceful protest is the right of every American, there's no place for lawlessness or violence. She replied with one word: no.
This lack of action from the highest levels of the administration in the face of a direct and violent threat to American democracy served as a wake-up call for many. It forced numerous MAGA supporters to confront the reality of what their movement had become and reconsider their unwavering support for Trump.
So I finally stepped outside the MAGA echo chamber. I stopped listening to what Trump said and looked around with my own eyes. And I realized he had been lying about pretty much everything. So this is my message to all the Republicans and independents who are watching. People like me who voted for and believed in Trump. I made a grave mistake.
Rich Logis, from MAGA pundit to Harris supporters. Another compelling story is Rich Logis, a 47-year-old business owner from Delray Beach, Florida. Once a self-described MAGA pundit, Logis now leads a group called Leaving MAGA for former Trump supporters. In a video addressed to the DNC, Logis explained his transformation. Logis' journey from writing pro-Trump articles for conservative outlets to actively campaigning against him illustrates the depth of disillusionment some former supporters have experienced.
In particular, you do not owe anything to a party that is out of touch and is hell-bent on taking our country backward.
The Republican Party's identity crisis. John Giles, the Republican mayor of Mesa, Arizona, spoke at the DNC about feeling more at home among Democrats than in today's Republican Party. He didn't pull any punches, stating, quote, "The grand old party has been kidnapped by extremists and evolved into a cult." The sentiment echoes the feelings of many moderate Republicans who feel their party has lost its way under Trump's influence. Giles went on to invoke the memory of John McCain, saying, quote, "John McCain's Republican Party is gone, and we don't owe a damn thing to what's been left behind." This call to put country first resonates with many who feel torn between party loyalty and what they perceive as the greater good for the nation.
Trump wasn't for me. He was for lining his own pockets. Now I'm not left-wing, period. But I believe our leaders should bring out the best in us, not the worst.
The impact of policy decisions. For some former Trump supporters, the disillusionment came from seeing the real-world impacts of his policies. Kyle Sweetser, who voted for Trump 3 times, shared his experience at the DNC. As someone working in construction, he was initially drawn to Trump's promises to look out for blue-collar workers. However, he soon realized that Trump's tariff policies were causing construction costs to soar, directly impacting his livelihood. Sweetser's story highlights how personal experiences with policy outcomes can lead to a re-evaluation of political allegiances. It's a reminder that for many voters, kitchen table issues often trump party loyalty.
Donald Trump and his minions call Kamala a communist. I know communism. I fled communism from Nicaragua when I was 8 years old. I don't take it lightly. And let me tell you what communist dictators do. And it's never just for one day. They attack the free press. They call them the enemy of the people, like Ortega does in Nicaragua. They put their unqualified relatives in cushy government jobs so they can get rich of their positions, like the Castros do in Cuba. And they refuse to accept legitimate elections when they lose and call for violence to stay in power, like Maduro is doing right now in Venezuela.
The role of character and leadership. Ana Navarro, a longtime Republican strategist, drew parallels between Trump's behavior and that of authoritarian leaders in Latin America. This comparison resonated with Navarro's personal experience fleeing a communist regime in Nicaragua as a child. Navarro's perspective brings an international dimension to the critique of Trump's leadership style. The bipartisan appeal of the Biden-Harris administration. John Giles praised the Biden-Harris administration for its bipartisan cooperation, which he says has benefited his home state of Arizona. Quote, "I'm going to ribbon cuttings every single week, all because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris reached across the aisle, and they delivered for my conservative community and countless more across the country." The Republican Voters Against Trump movement. The movement of Republicans away from Trump isn't limited to high-profile figures. Grassroots efforts like Republican Voters Against Trump are gathering testimonials from everyday citizens who have changed their minds. These personal stories, shared at events like the DNC and through advertising campaigns, are powerful tools in reaching out to other potential swing voters.
On Election Day, we're going to tell her that we've had enough, that we can't take it anymore, Kamala. You're doing a horrible job. You were a terrible attorney general. You were a terrible district attorney. You're the worst vice president in history. Kamala, you're fired. Get out of here. Go.
The Trump campaign's response. While Trump himself has not directly addressed the Republican speakers at the DNC, he's dismissed the convention's first day as filled with lies and disinformation. This response fits with his typical pattern of denying or discrediting any criticism, which some former supporters cite as one of the reasons for their disillusionment. Now it's time to hear from you. Have you or someone you know experienced a similar change in political views? Let us know in the comments section below.